Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, May the 28th, 2019. Welcome to Resilient Radio, Recovery Radio Hour. My name is Daphne Wallis, and I'm the host and also in recovery from mental illness and addiction. If you want to join our team, you do not have to be in one precise location to be a part. If you're interested, please email clientservices@tentalk.org. If you or a family member struggle with addiction, you are not the only one. Often we feel uncomfortable talking about it, and that is why I am here. We're going to be sharing stories by those impacted directly by addiction and mental illness on this show. These are brave individuals who not only step out to share their story and hope to help someone gain insight, they're also stepping up in their communities and dedicating their lives to this cause. Everybody has been impacted in one way or the other. Everyone struggles. Not everyone can see hope from where they stand, so we are going to get down into the trenches. This week's show topic is Ground Zero Inside the Epidemic. Now I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors. We have Mark and Lisa Manning with Custom Jewelers, your hometown jewelry store for all your custom design, retipping, and jewelry repair needs. Specialized jewelry as well. And they now do cremation and remembrance jewelry. This week's topic is Ground Zero Inside the Epidemic. The opioid epidemic, or opioid crisis, is a term that generally refers to the rapid increase in the use of prescription and non-prescription opioid drugs in the United States beginning in the late 1900s. In 2016, the crisis decreased overall life expectancy of Americans for the second consecutive year. Even though most of what we hear seems to be focused on or around the opioid epidemic, and even though we will be discussing it today, we also want to let it be known that opioids definitely is not the only epidemic we're facing in America. For many families and many populations across the country, addiction has become a family tradition. Sadly, many people are not even aware that there's another way of living. Many people living in addiction cannot even see beyond what is in front of them. For a long time myself, I didn't even know there was another way of living. For me, growing up in poverty and living a life of addiction, it felt like I was walking through fog. I realized that not everyone is as fortunate as I am. I felt like I somehow stumbled along the edge, and I knew that I got a glimpse of a world that I didn't know existed. I was able to hear the voices of people talking about recovery. I could see a glimpse of hope. I believe if we're loud enough and persistent enough, we just may reach into the trenches and make a difference. For recovery and resources in your area, go to ibhelpless.com. You are listening to Resilient Radio, Recovery Radio Hour on the Victory 93.7, and this song is Thank You, Lord by Bob Marley.
For what you've done for me. Thank you, Lord, for what you're doing now. Thank you, Lord, for every little thing. Thank you, Lord, for you made me sing. Said I'm in no competition, but I made my decision. You can keep your opinion. I'm just crawling on the wise man communion. Thank you, Lord, for what you've done for me. Thank you, Lord, for what you're doing now. Thank you, Lord, for every little thing. Thank you, Lord, for you made me sing. Sing along, sing along. Oh, I don't just to prove my determination. Thank you, Lord, for what you've done for me. Thank you, Lord, for what you're doing now. Thank you, Lord, for every little thing. for you make me sing. Sing along, sing along.
Up ahead, we have with us Brannon Powell, peer recovery specialist, and he is going to give you insight through his eyes on ground zero inside the epidemic. Only on Resilient Radio, Music, Community, and Love. This is Johnny Cash, Heart of Gold.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3,
I want to live, I want to give. I've been a miner for a heart of gold. It's these expressions I never give that keeps me searching for a heart of gold. And I'm getting old. It keeps me searching for a heart of gold, and I'm getting old. I've been to Redwood, I'd cross the ocean for a heart of gold. I've been in my mind, it's such a fine line that keeps me searching for a heart of gold. And I'm getting old. That keeps me searching for a heart of gold, and I'm getting old. Searching for a heart of gold. I've been a miner for a heart of gold, and I'm getting old.
Now we have with us Brannon Powell, and in this first segment we will be covering rock bottom. Thank you for being here, Brannon. What is a peer recovery specialist? A certified peer support specialist, also known as a certified peer specialist, is a person with significant life-altering experience. This is also referred to as lived experience. These specialists support individuals and struggles pertaining to mental health, psychological trauma, or substance abuse. Brannon, can you tell us where you are from and a little bit about your background growing up?
Yes, I'm from Haywood County, and I grew up in Haywood County. I grew up in a good Christian home, and was blessed in so many ways. Raised in a good Christian home. I was in church Sunday night, Sunday morning, Wednesday night, and I got saved, asked Jesus Christ to come in my heart at 8 years old, and he did. Now, there were several years there I questioned and doubted and had a lot of well-meaning. I say Christian religious people said, there's no way you're really saved, but I can go back, that he came in my heart and he never left. But as I reached my teen years and started, sports was everything to me. I was the quarterback and the safety and the punter, shortstop, pitcher, point guard, and excelled in that. I was a straight A student, but never realized that one choice would lead to another. And mine started out with alcohol and smoking a little weed. And so then when I had a baseball scholarship to college, but I guess that rebellious nature sort of took over, and I wanted to get away from home, get away from my parents in West Tennessee, and I was supposed to go to Union, but I thought that's what my dad wanted me to do, so I wanted to get away. So I went to University of Tennessee and got involved in a fraternity. There was absolutely nothing wrong with the fraternity, but that's when the alcohol was so socially accepted, and I never was a blackout drinker, didn't get DUIs, but that drinking one choice led to another. I ended up experimenting with cocaine, and then that led me down a road of about 20 years or better on and off of alcohol, cocaine addiction, and every other drug under the sun. I've done them all, and opiates, whatever, and all I was doing was just running away from God. And I ran away from him. He never left me. And I had to reach a point of total brokenness, not necessarily, although I lost businesses, family, all that stuff, but I became totally broken from the inside out. And I cried out to God, and he was still right there, just like the prodigal son. And,
now, what is it that God provided for you that helped you?
Unconditional love, that I knew that he was always there and never left me. And even though I strayed as far as I did, he never failed. I know I had a lot of people praying for me. I had godly grandparents, my old Sunday school teacher, just a lot of people prayed for me, and I know that. But he always put people in my path that have a sponsor today. You know, in the church they call it discipleship, and 12-step rooms is sponsorship. But I'm accountable to a lot of men today. The guy that was on here a few weeks ago, John Coleman, does a lot of prison ministry. But
yeah, I like John.
But I've just been blessed that God can use a broken down person like me to help others. It's all about him. Nothing I've done. It's all about him.
Right. So can you tell us, like, looking back now where you are when you were a child, did you see any signs that you were on a path to addiction beforehand yourself?
No, not really. I never did anything halfway. I mean, whatever I did, whether it was baseball, basketball, school, I was just headstrong.
Yeah.
Which I think, I'll say this, and I believe this, is that, alcoholism, drug addiction, all those are worldly terms. And I believe those. But I really believe what I suffered from was disobedientism to godly principles with a lot of alcohol and drugs and whatever else poured on it. In the 12 step rooms, it talks about in one of the steps, the exact nature of our wrongs. Well, I was born with that self-centered, sinful nature.
So the structure you were lacking is what God helped provide for you.
Well, yeah, I had a lot of structure at home. I mean, my dad was very much a disciplinarian. Disciplinarian, I think is how I can pronounce the word. But as I entered, as I got older, and I think nowadays kids, teenagers have so much more to deal with. I was so busy playing sports, and I didn't have a lot of time to get in trouble. But on the weekends in a small town back in the day, what you did on Friday night, Saturday night, ride around and drink beer with your buddies, and But
sometimes in small towns, I notice that there's not a lot of activities for kids to do.
it's not.
It's just not that way.
Yeah.
You know, so where I come from, it was a skating ring, you know, and that was the only thing, or riding around. So we found ourselves getting, you know, off trying to find something to do.
Well, and I know technology is good, but you know, from the old school, but this phones. I mean, when you can go in a restaurant now, you see these kids. I was at the lake this weekend, and I noticed a kid on a Sea-Doo had to stop to be on his phone. You know, technology is good, but it's become an obsession with these kids. You know, too much of anything, and you know, I read an article where even the high-tech companies don't allow the ones that invented all this stuff don't even allow their children to have X amount of screen time. And but it's just so much for them to get in nowadays. And again, I was raised right. But it's not about, you know, it didn't matter how good of a Christians my parents were or my grandparents, and I was blessed in so many ways. But I just started chasing everything that the world had to offer. You know, it doesn't even necessarily have to be about the alcohol and the drugs, but you know, the property, the money, prestige, and you know, and girls and all that. I got off to college, and I just followed the world's ways. And it led me to a breaking point of it. You know, all that the world has to offer is not going to give you the joy and the peace that only Jesus Christ can give.
Yeah.
And so I'm just grateful that He's used my darkest past today. Everything that I've been through has got me where I am today. Now, you know, I have regrets. I hurt a lot of people. You know, because family split up, and you know, and you leave a lot of damage in the path. But God, what the enemy meant for bad, God restored for good. And it's all about Him and giving Him all the praise and glory. And the fact that I'm even asked to come on a Christian radio station, that the judges call me, that I get phone calls. Tennessee Red Line, I'll talk about that in a little bit. It's an 800 number that people can call 24/7. But I get a lot of calls from families that want their loved one to get help.
Yeah.
But the loved one's not ready, you know, and that's tough. But families don't realize this is a family sickness or disease.
Yes.
The family.
Talk a little bit about that.
The family member. I mean, because I've had a lot of therapy, and I went. I'll tell you this. I was in and out of treatment centers, on and off, up to age 40. Many of them. You know, I do good for a while, and then I would, you know, make that choice and go back. I had a hard time accepting that a can of beer would lead me back, you know, because I wasn't a blackout drinker. I you know, no DUIs and all that, but get around your buddies or whatever. And again, just one thing I've learned, it's never anybody else's fault. I'm responsible for my choices, totally 100%. And there's no blame game. And it's all about forgiving myself because of what Jesus Christ did on the cross. He paid the price. Who am I? You know, not that I hadn't had things to happen in my life that I needed to forgive others, but I've had to have a lot of people to forgive me. And you know, and that's what the 12-step program's about. And my experience with that is those 12 steps, regardless if they're in the 12-step rooms, Celebrate Recovery, wherever, are God's design for living for every human being.
Yeah.
It's about realizing who and what we are, which we're absolutely nothing without Him. But the wisdom of the 12-step programs is it meets people where they are. Because when I go into jails, and this is just the truth of the matter, I love my church and all, but I think sometimes we have, instead of demonstrating the love of Christ, we're too busy preaching at people. And I assure you, most of these people suffering from drug addiction have been preached to a lot. Mm-hmm. So when I go and I do assessments, and whether in jails or an intervention or whatever, you have to meet them where they are. You have to meet them where they are and show them that you care about them and love them. You know, you got to show them you care before they know you care. Yeah. Because they've been preached to. So the wisdom of the program, of the 12-step programs, and I'm not here trying to promote, I'm just saying it, ultimately it all leads to God.
Yes.
One way or the other. That's where, you know, we were talking about earlier. I believe a person can get clean without God, but I don't think a person can get truly sober without Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
You know, but some people aren't ready to hear that.
Everybody's at different levels of
That's
faith.
Exactly right.
Everyone, I believe, has, you know, had different experiences in their life that led them to where they are.
Exactly.
And there's different things that may have impacted their walk, and they might not have been strong at this point or this point or this point, and maybe when they need support, somebody was judgmental, different things like that happening. Maybe they thought they was ready, but they wasn't willing to accept change. There's so many things in all that.
So many things
that impact somebody's walk. But I agree. I think that displaying the love of God is something. I've seen many people too on this subject that claim that they are Christian, and I'm not saying that they aren't, because trying to be like God, following Jesus's lead, trying to become more like Him, or growing into that path. But sometimes they are they just don't display the love of God, and it's like they think they are, and then when they go to talk to someone, it comes out as judgmental. And then after that, what I've come to recognize is, or the question I've asked, it was like, well, are they not trusting God to take it from there? They've done a good job up to that point, and same with me. I ask myself that if I'm trying to talk to someone, I don't want to be judgmental, or I want to be able to have God come through me and display the love of God to them, because I'm not no better than they are. And if God uses me, then I'm just grateful.
Well, when I go into the jails, most important thing for me is to listen, and then I share part of my story. I don't, and believe me, I had a lot of people, and I, well-meaning people. I got preached to, but I was my own worst enemy, and I had a really hard time forgiving myself. So because I was blessed in so many ways. I didn't have traumatic situations. A lot of people that I deal with, have had some very traumatic situations, been a lot of abuse. I didn't. I was blessed in so many ways. So I was having a hard time, but by me not being able to forgive myself is like playing God. Because if Jesus, who He says He is, and did what He said He did, who am I not to, So a lot of times people have trouble with self-forgiveness. But it's just such a blessing today to be able to. I'm just a truly miracle. I'm a miracle, just like you are, and I see miracles every day. Now it's, I also get those calls that I've been to a lot of funerals. I previously worked for a treatment center, a men's treatment center in Middle Tennessee, which was a wonderful place. Then I worked for a Christian ministry for a year, and then God opened this door, and I've been to a lot of funerals of people that I had met in recovery, or either when I worked for the ministry, I was their counselor, and I don't know what the statistics are right now, but there were about every 10 minutes there's somebody ODing. And we talk about this opioid crisis, and it is a crisis.
For sharing that. That was, for those of you just tuning in, this is Resilient Radio, Recovery Radio Hour. We've been here talking to Brannon Powell, a peer recovery specialist, and he is sharing his personal story of what it was like for him when he hit his rock bottom, and through his eyes of peer recovery in the peer recovery field. In a few minutes, we're going to into his journey into recovery. And now here's a song called Where I Belong by Building 429.
Sometimes it feels like I'm watching from the outside. Sometimes it feels like I'm breathing. But am I alive? I won't keep searching for answers that aren't here to find. All I know is I'm not home yet. This is not where I belong. Take this world and give me Jesus. This is not where I belong.
back now with peer recovery specialist Brannon Powell. Earlier, he shared his personal experience of going through addiction, and now we'll be discussing the second part of Ground Zero inside the epidemic, the climb. Brannon, after you found recovery, was it easy or difficult to find friends?
Well, I don't think it's ever really difficult to find friends. It depends on what kind of friends you want and where you're looking. I always had some really good friends that stuck by me. I remember my dad years ago said, if you can count your true friends on one or two fingers, you're doing good. And I remember at the time thinking, oh, Dad, I've got all these friends. Well, when the times get tough and you're in the gutter, you find out who your true friends are. But I've got some wonderful friends, from church friends, 12-step friends in 12-step rooms, but got all the friends I need,
Yeah.
And but it depends on what you're looking for.
Your transition into recovery, after God restored your life, and then you connected with your sponsor. How difficult was it transitioning?
It's only as difficult as you want to make it. There's, what, and this is just crazy. You used to think, and I know this is the way a lot of people think, everybody's out here getting high. No, they're not. There's a lot of people out here living godly lives.
Yeah.
But everybody was getting high that I was hanging out with. Yeah, it is an epidemic, and there's a lot of people getting high. But you're gonna reap what you sow. But there's good people out here in recovery. And what I tell people, all recovery is character building and becoming the men and women that God intended you to be. That's all it is.
Right.
It's getting rid of all that stuff in the past. We all got stuff. We're all in recovery of something. It doesn't have to be alcohol. We are all we're human beings. We make mistakes, and
we live this life and we struggle.
And this life is going to be a struggle. But there is an answer. His name is Jesus Christ, and there's a way out. He says, Jesus says, I'm the truth, the way, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through me. That's what he said. I didn't say that. He said that. And I don't think anybody would call Jesus a liar. Maybe some people do. But
and sometimes he may appear to people through as truth, as, like.
Right.
And that may be the way he appears to them initially. There's so many. He does what he wants to do.
and I'm glad you said that because, again, I don't preach to anybody. I try not to. I really don't. I'm passionate about what I do because of what he's done for me. But preaching to people I know there's a time and a place for that.
Yeah.
Too. But I'll be honest with you. If I went into the jail and the first thing I asked, where are you going to spend eternity, or what's your relationship with Jesus? A lot of people have been scarred for whatever reason. I'm not saying, and I think us as Christians have dropped the ball. Instead of demonstrating the love of Jesus, we're constantly, preaching at people. God says, there ain't but one judge, and it's sure not me. Mm. But I will say this: I was very judgmental. I grew up. I learned I was very judgmental. But God's got a sense of humor. I learned real quick. Listen, you start judging others, it's coming back.
Right.
It's coming back, and but we're all in recovery. We're all just trying to make. This world is it can be tough, but we can sure make it a whole lot tougher. And but there is a way out. There is a way out. He's the way out, and I think a lot of people have a misconception. I know this. I deal with this a lot. Part of my job responsibility is to reduce the stigma. I know there's 12-step meetings, rooms, and anonymous. I'm not anonymous. My story's my story. And my name is Brannon Powell, and I've done every drug under the sun. God has restored me. But it's a one day at a time. He has removed any desire to pick up any substance. But I still struggle with sin. Where does the enemy attack? He attacks in the mind. Mm. And he's constantly, I don't think he really worried about me for a long time because I was out here. I had a very godly man that does a lot of prison ministry. He asked me one time, and I got really angry. Son, how's serving the enemy working for you? And I'm sitting here thinking, how dare you? I was thinking of a Satan worshiper. And he said, son, I'm not criticizing nor judging. He said, the majority of the world's out here serving him and don't even realize it. And you think about that. It is so true. He's real easy to see up in the trap houses, the drug houses, in all the darkness. But he comes dressed up as a father of light. And he's cunning, baffling, and powerful, and he's deceiving. And I look back at my life, I made a lot of choices. I walked into a lot of traps, set by the enemy. And, but, we all, I think, have some form story of the prodigal son.
Right.
That Jesus was sitting there just waiting with open arms. I believe he wept and hurt when I was going through all that stuff. And, talks about, my sheep hear my voice. But he'll leave the 99 to go after the one for every one of us. And but
That's
again,
so true.
and when I talk about the 12-step, and I'm not trying, but the wisdom of that program, it meets people where they are.
I agree,
It
and
meets
it's
people where they
really good to me.
Yes.
And
me
it's
too.
when you dig down. I got that recovery Bible, the New Life.
Mm-hmm.
John brought me a Bible, and I had a recovery Bible, and I don't have it anymore, and hadn't had it in a few years. And then he brings me that one when he came on, and I was digging into it, and it shows you all throughout the Bible the same step in different areas. And then when you go to one and you're reading it and trying to dig into it, it takes you deeper, and it takes you deeper into understanding yourself and connecting with God.
Well,
and it's not just, it's built around the addiction, but it's not just for addiction.
No, it's for everything.
It's just really good.
I was one of these. I struggled. Again, I keep going back to that, but the higher power.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't they say higher power? Why don't they just say, again, and John Coleman is the one that opened my eyes to this.
Mm-hmm.
It's the wisdom of the program. Higher power is capitalized. In one particular 12-step, third-step prayer, when you turn your life and your will over to the care of God, of thy power, capitalized. Mm-hmm. Thy love, capitalized. Thy way, capitalized. It's the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
God is love, and we know who the way is. Now, some people may not see that,
Yeah, because
receive
everybody's
that
on different levels again. You know, with their,
but eventually, and again, not everybody has a white light radical experience with Jesus. Sometimes it comes over time as they clear up the wreckage of their past. They come to realize who the truth is, and so
in their own way, and
right.
how God shows them. And so, like the higher power thing, I can see too, to where if you have a multitude of people, reminds me of that in the Bible talking about they were preaching to multiples in different languages, and every one of them understood the messages. So, spoke in one language, and then everybody in different languages understood it. That story in the Bible, like that.
This morning, my devotion this morning was talking about, God uses broken people.
Mm-hmm.
So who sit there and denied Jesus 3 times? Peter. I think that Peter denied him 3 times, and then that's anyway. And then was and then
or Judas.
Judas denied him and then went out and hung himself.
Yeah, Peter was the rooster crow.
And Peter denied him, but then went on to start the church. God uses broken people, and we're all broken. We're all broken. And I think one of the greatest that I never knew what humility was. I knew what humiliation was. I kept doing things to humiliate myself and my family and friends. But true humility, or a good definition, it's just being okay in whatever your present circumstances. To know that everything's going to be okay. God's got it. He's sovereign, and He's got it. And it's going to be. May not feel okay, but it's going to be okay. This morning I was says the greatest enemy. And this is a quote out of the big book. The greatest enemy of alcoholics is resentment, jealousy, envy, frustration, and fear. Mm-hmm. Just take the word alcohol out of it. Don't you think that's the greatest enemy of every human being?
Right.
Resentment, jealousy, envy, frustration, fear. Those bedevilment emotions that. And again, I don't want to ever come across like I don't have all the answers, but I know the one who does.
Yeah,
and it's
and
about
sharing what you know, sharing what your wisdom is that you have learned,
And it's just about relationship. It's about a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
But I tried every other way. Believe me, tried every other way possible, and there's no other way. So I'm just want to tell you, don't knock it till you try it. You don't like
Right.
it till you try it.
So, how did you first get involved becoming how did you first come across peer recovery?
Well, I was working for this ministry. I was working for a ministry, and my old college roommate, who's to this day still my best friend, he's judge over the 25th Judicial District, and he called me one day and he said, "Brannon, I'm so tired of locking up people that just need another chance." He's a really godly man. I'm gonna say his name on the radio, Judge Weber McCraw. He's been my best friend since college. He was my big brother in fraternity, and so anyway, I went to his recovery court and was sitting in recovery court and was talking to a lady next to him. He was a very godly lady in recovery, and I asked what she did, and she asked what I did, and she was a Lifeline peer recovery specialist, and she said, "Matter of fact, the job just opened." And to be honest with you, it was at the last minute, but God, I sent my resume in, and God opened the door, and it's just been a blessing. I've been doing it, I guess, about a year and a half now. But
What are some of the most rewarding things about being a peer specialist?
getting a call from the family or from the person who has completed treatment, I used to listen. We've got some great recovery. Aspel is wonderful. Jacoa, I use them all, and then I have some faith-based places that for people that no money, no insurance. They get them a job, and the difference is they get a job and they go to work and they're able to save money. So, I'm not associated with any particular. I just get them in wherever I can. But to get a call that they've completed the program, and even after, I try to follow up on as many people as I can, even after they get out, to see how they're doing, and just to get a call, because we know it has nothing to do with me, it's all about God, but to get a call and somebody thanking me that their family's been restored, they're back with their kids, and they're in recovery and doing the deal, but on the same token, or on a different token, you get the calls that are not so good, just like the other day, that somebody that I'd worked really hard to get in treatment, they were in jail, and they begged and begged and begged, and they were there, I guess, about 2 weeks, and end up leaving with their girlfriend.
Those habits, the cycle.
It was a cycle of, yes, the cycle. And so I'm sure they're back in jail or will be. And
so that's one of the challenging things that you come across. What is another challenging thing?
Finding beds. Again, I deal with mostly people with no resources, no money. If a person's got insurance or resources, I can get them in somewhere yesterday. But the people that I deal with in my 9-county region, Northwest Tennessee, majority of them don't. They've burned all their bridges and they have no resources. So finding beds for them. But again, I work real close with Aspel and Jacoa and places in Memphis and other, but they're real good about getting on the waiting list and getting them in. But that's the biggest.
Well, what are some of the responses and reactions from people that you hear that don't have insurance and don't have any money, but they really want
help right now? I got a call last night at 10 o'clock, and I almost didn't answer my phone because I just came in from I try to always answer my phone because I try to put myself in their situation, but I have to take care of myself too. I mean, it would be 7 days a week, because there's just a lot of hurting people out here, and I can't save the world, and nor can my coworkers, but hopefully we're making a difference, one life at a time,
I'm sure you are.
with God, but people want it right then. And especially if you get a call from jail, they want it right then. And sometimes you can't get it right then, especially if you get a call on a late Friday or a Saturday. But a lot of times that determines how bad they really want the help too, if they're willing to. And I will say this, the high success rate is still going into the 12-step rooms. Going in and getting plugged in, and getting a sponsor and or mentor, being accountable, and start working the steps.
Well, do you think that this radio program that we're doing like this and maybe other things like this in the community, as far as reaching out and connecting people, can make an impact also?
I think it can make a huge impact because, again, the stigma of all this stuff. I mean, I had, you know, if you'd have asked me when I graduated high school that I would have ever gone down that road, but the stigma associated with it and how people look down on it, just that we're morally weak people and
we already feel ashamed
ashamed
and dealing with those things.
shame and
the
guilt. Shame and guilt.
process.
Shame and guilt. And so, yes, just getting that to know that there is help. There is help. And be sure and let me, can I go ahead and give this 800 number for?
Well, if you can, or we can do it in just a minute.
Okay, that'd be fine. Let me do it now. Okay, the red line number. This is a 24-hour helpline across the state for every region. And when you call, as a matter of fact, on the back of my card it says, "Are you or someone you know in active addiction? Help is available. Recovery is possible. Call Tennessee Red Line, 24 hours, 7 days a week." Is 1-800-889-9789. 1-800-889-9789. And it says addiction destroys family, recovery restores them. And I'm going to go ahead and give out my number, which I cover Northwest Tennessee, is 731-223-2755. 731-223-2755. If something happens, because I'm on the phone a lot, I don't answer, leave a message or send me a text, and I'll get back to you as quick as I can. But there is help out there.
Absolutely, there is. Thank you for giving us insight through your life experience and your story. Now we have a weekly spotlight musician, and it's Sinead O'Connor with "Nothing Compares to You."
It's been 7 hours and 15 days since you took your love away. I go out every night and sleep all day since you took your love away. Since you've been gone, I can do whatever I want. I can see whomever I choose. I can eat my dinner in a fancy restaurant, but nothing, I said nothing can take away these blues, 'cause nothing compares to you. It's been so lonely without you here, like a bird without a song. Nothing can stop these lonely tears from falling. Tell me, baby, where did I go wrong? I can put my arms around
So that was the song by Sinead O'Connor called Nothing Compares to You. It was written and composed by Prince for the family, and the song was featured in their eponymous album, The Family. It was later made famous by Irish recording artist Sinead O'Connor. It seemed to me O'Connor felt very deeply about connecting with other people and wanted heartache to be resolved based on the literature I've come across. Her beautiful voice echoes emotion out as it draws me into the presence of her agony. O'Connor is a beautiful and rare soul. When I hear her voice, it gives me serenity.